Welcome to the Left of Str8 Show, where we talk entertainment, music, books, foodies, and more each week with special guest interviews of interest to the LGBTQ community and our straight allies. Direct from the entertainment capital of Northeast Ohio. Your host, Scott Fullerton, chats with some of your favorite entertainers, celebrities, newsmakers, and behind-the-scenes people across the country and around the world who make it all happen. So sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and let's start talking.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to a very special Left of Str8 show. I'm so glad you're joining us today. I am your host, Scott Fullerton, and I have been honored and privileged to get behind this microphone here for this little internet radio experiment for the last 8 years. I did my very first episode live exactly 8 years ago today from the day I'm recording this. July 2nd, 2015 was our very first episode, and today is July 2nd, 2023. When we recorded, marriage equality for same-sex couples had just become the law of the land a week before that first episode premiered. So yeah, it's been 8 years on the air, and thank you all for joining me on the ride. I really do appreciate it. For those of you that don't know, I started the Left of Str8 Show when I needed to find something to do when I moved back in with my parents back in January of 2015. I came back to take care of my dad. He was very sick. Unfortunately, we lost him just a month over the time the show debuted and 8 months after I moved back home to take care of him. So my dad had passed, but he made me promise to continue the show because he saw how much I loved doing it right away. And he wanted me to take care of my mother, who's now 84 years old, bless her heart. And I'm happy to say that I've been doing both of those very happily ever since. So I'm so excited. Mom's been along for the journey. A lot of you have met her. She'll probably pop on the show from time to time. But she's got to meet some of the amazing people I've talked to over the past 8 years. I'm continuing to do what I love doing, hopefully making people smile by bringing you all interviews with celebrities and personalities from our LGBTQ community and our straight allies. Along the way, I've taken the show on some amazing road trips to Palm Springs, LA, New York, and a couple other locations. I've had hundreds of thousands of downloads of our past episodes, and I can't thank you enough for that. So I really just want to thank you all. Of course, the pandemic took a toll on the show, as it did for everyone, especially in the entertainment industry, where most of my guests come from. After taking a year off for the pandemic, when there just wasn't much going on for work for anybody, it took me another year to get myself back in the swing of things and get motivated again to do the show. But I'm happy I came back in March, started my 6th season and our 8th year back in March. And now we have 8 full years under our belt, starting on year 9. So thanks for all of you guys that have motivated me to get going again, for the great comments since we've been back in March. And I'm so happy to keep doing this for you. So today I'm happy to launch the 9th year of the Left of Str8 Show by bringing back 2 of my original guests from that very first live show back in 2015. First up will be a chat with Ben Patrick Johnson. I met him through Twitter, believe it or not. Back in the day, I can actually get guests by reaching out to him on social media when that was still relatively new. As I was getting ready to start the show, I reached out to Ben. He was a huge marriage equality advocate in California at the time. He had an amazing story about being demoted on television for coming out of the closet. He was a big deal in Hollywood. He was on Entertainment Tonight, Extra TV. Since then, he's battled some addiction and some life setbacks and his own demons, but he's been on the road to recovery for the last few years, getting his health back. He had a couple medical scares last year, and it was just amazing to catch up with him. He's living in Palm Springs these days. And then I talked with my second guest from that first show, Kelly McCracken. Kelly was huge to me for her music here in Northeast Ohio with her band, the Kellys. But the reason I had to have her on my first episode, because she was actually one of the plaintiffs in the marriage equality case that passed in the Supreme Court the week before the show started. Her and her wife at the time were fighting to get both of their names on their daughter's birth certificate after they were legally married in Massachusetts before she was born. It was great to catch up with Kelly and Ben. They both have some great stories to tell. So sit back and relax. I'll share with you more about our 9th year adventures that come between interviews. But again, welcome to the Left of Str8 Show special 8-year anniversary edition right here, July 2nd, 2015, July 2nd, 2023. We're going to start with a little interview with my friend, Ben Patrick Johnson. I'll talk to you on the other side. You're listening to the Left of Str8 Show right here on the Left of Str8 Radio Network. All righty, everyone. Welcome back to the 8-year anniversary right here on the Left of Str8 Show. I am always your host here, Scott Fullerton. My very first guest ever is back. I'm so excited to chat with him again. Ben Patrick Johnson is one of those unique people whose captivating voice you recognize and whose handsome good looks you just can't forget. As a voice actor who started his career as a campaign for the Disney film Lilo and Stitch, Ben's amazing talent has graced movie trailers, network promos, talk radio, and even DJing. I had to have him as one of my first show guests, not only because of his rich and captivating tone, but because of his multiple accomplishments he achieved, not only in but out of his chosen profession. Plus, I wanted to make sure that we had at least one good voice that would sound professional on my first podcast. In addition to his voice acting, Ben has an amazing life story from working as a co-host on the entertainment magazine show Extra to proving his mettle as an author, a philanthropist, an LGBTQ activist. Way before I started my little podcast, he's helped shape California politics and defend gay marriage. And it was important to have him back on the show when gay marriage became the law of the land a week before this first show aired. All in all, I was ecstatic and amazed that he answered my little Twitter message 8 years ago today. Please welcome back to the show the amazing Mr. Ben Patrick Johnson. Ben, how you doing,
Scott?
sir?
I'm appreciative and I'm humbled, and I figure once every 8 years, it will keep cycling.
We'll have a cycle of it. Yeah, it's once we're of a certain
and thank
age.
you for sticking with the introduction word for word as I wrote it. Your $10 check is in the mail, I promise you.
Exactly. I love it. Well, sir, as I said, the very first time 8 years ago, I was honored to have you on. We had just talked about marriage equality with Kelly McCracken, another guest. You were married to TJ at the time, and after you fighting for it for years in California, so it was an exciting time for us both, and I needed to have some kind of professional in the studio, and you were it, my friend. So thanks for coming on.
You.
How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I moved from Los Angeles to Palm Springs about 5 years ago. And that's eventually what happens. If you live in Miami, you eventually move to Fort Lauderdale or somewhere else. If you live, I don't know where you go from Chicago, somewhere in Illinois. From Los Angeles, you move to Palm Springs, especially as a gay man. That's
right. Exactly
the natural
right.
order and progression of things. So I made it. I'm 54 tomorrow. Actually, I turned 54 years old. And
Happy birthday.
I'm very excited for 55, more so because I can take an early pension, early retirement pension from the Screen Actors Guild.
There you go.
That will be great. But you're right. I've been doing everything under the sun, good things and bad, struggling with substance use addiction and hopefully sitting on top of it, getting the best of it. But then also working, kind of taking, there's a hierarchy to voiceovers and to what one does. And at the very top is the big network and Hollywood studio promo stuff, which I'd done for 30 years, came back in at sort of an entry level, being on the air doing radio. And that has grown and grown and grown over the last handful of years to where I'm now actually hosting one radio show, another one also that's about to start in national syndication. And ironically, the one of them is now going to air on the station where I started back out in radio. So all things kind of are circular. It's just, I guess it seems kind of natural then that I would come be on the show today. Things have also changed significantly for LGBTQAI pluses, plus. as you mentioned, we first had our first on-air conversation right after gay marriage had become the law of the land, and we were just ecstatic, and we
Right.
thought, well, the sky's the limit from here. No, it turns out the gutter was the limit. Over the years, there's been this piece of legislation or that piece of legislation that hasn't been the most gay friendly, but now we are amid a barrage and an outright wholesale attack on our,
Right.
not just on our rights, but on our dignity. The way that legislators in so many states now are going after trans youth against their health care rights. Although we're getting a lot of, I'm getting emotional talking about this, against our brothers and sisters who embrace drag. Talking about how dangerous and horrible it is to have someone who wears principally the costumery of another sex, another gender, as part of their day. Well, that's surely going to harm children.
Right.
And it's an outright campaign. They knocked down Roe v. Wade, and it's like, what stands next? And I think we're all terrified. And some of us, we're still somewhat tired from the marriage fight 8 years ago, and here it is times 10 in front of us, and we're the underdogs this time around. Whereas in marriage, we felt ourselves, we realized and found ourselves in the majority just all of a
Right.
sudden. Now it's very, very tough.
Well, it's got to be a sad full circle moment for you because I mean, your first job on Extra there, you were kind of demoted, so to speak,
Yeah.
for coming out on talk radio and for coming out, living your open and honest life, and now they're doing it again with all sorts of other people, and it's just crazy time out there. I mean, you started your Ben Patrick Johnson Foundation to help a lot of these different groups. You were instrumental in marriage equality and getting rid of some of those Republican legislatures we had at the time. So this has just got to raise your hackles. I can't believe it's got to be crazy for
It
you.
it really does, and we sort of began to see all things LGBT, but we find ourselves once again 8 years later with a program like yours being absolutely, not like it went away or anything, but being absolutely vital. Vital to the communication and keeping the through line through and keeping the conversation headed in the direction where we need, and I don't mean want, where we need for it to be headed. And so I'm grateful for you for continuing to fight the good fight, for having this show, and in a small way, for asking me to be on. What do I have to say?
Thank you,
For
sir.
the sake of making an impact, I'm happy and proud to be here and be participating.
Well, thank you, sir, and I appreciate having you back. And I mean, um, talk about full circle. I mean, you wrote a book about your experience, and it's kind of what's old is new again.
Yeah,
I'm sure they can still find that. Talk about just having to write those experiences down. You're an amazing author. You write
thank you.
so eloquently. So, talk about. Do you have something? Do you feel like are you still writing daily? Do you have another book in you? I mean,
I
what's your
certainly have another book in me. I think I've got several more in me. And my intention had been to write about on the topic of recovery. Um, uh, Either a nonfiction title or a fictionalized account of my own life. But now, as you just said, with the stuff that's going on, it may be time to write sort of volume 2 of my very first book, which was In and Out in Hollywood. Uh,
right?
Hollywood. And, what's changed, what hasn't, for my main character, Freddie Ruckert, who was demoted, surprisingly like my own narrative, demoted and sidelined at a major entertainment show. In my own life, I fell upwards. I worked at E! News Daily for a brief time and then Entertainment Tonight for 6 years. And so as their signature voice and sometimes contributor. And I achieved a stature within the LGBTQ community. And getting fired from Extra worked out really well for me. But still, I have resentments, at times when I will look at, first it was the lead singer of Sugar Ray and then Mario Lopez and others who have been filled my shoes essentially at Extra.
Right.
And I won't pretend there's not resentment there. And I guess the challenge for me will be writing about the experience without it being just a kind of a bitch fest, because that's not going to help anybody. I have intimate
Well, that
knowledge.
makes sense. I mean,
Well,
your writing
you
is so
know,
eloquent. I was surprised you wrote that one. You talked about your recovery a little bit, and I don't want to go into it too much right now. But in that piece you wrote, um, something stigma, I forget what it was, but you're 14 days into recovery and you speak
mm,
so eloquently about it. I can't believe that you were able to. I mean, your thought process is so eloquent, just the way you
well,
think.
thank you.
It was
Yeah,
a great piece.
when I have been in periods of using, it's not always pretty. You know, I don't think it is for any addict in active use,
Sure.
but that all becomes lived experience that is tremendous fodder for writing. You know, if you are writing a book and you're completely making it up out of thin air, well, first of all,
Right.
there's no such thing as that. But if you're creating characters based on bits of observation of other people, the characters will be two-dimensional. They will be thin. If you can draw from either your own personal experience when creating, especially your lead characters, and or those with whom you've had close acquaintance over months into years, and you know the walk they walk and the talk they talk, and when they flinch, and what bugs them and what makes them joyful. You're able to. Um, it becomes a much more three-dimensional process. And as you said, that when I was writing about that, you said you were surprised at I think you used the word eloquence. I was just merely, I was merely just being a gumshoe, a newspaper reporter. Um, I was just reporting on the facts, ma'am. And the facts were that was what I was dealing with in that moment.
Right.
Yes, I know an adjective and a verb, but, or an adverb, I suppose. But the essence of writing is not clean prose, it's intimate knowledge. And here's the thing, though, when writing about addiction issues, there have been truly countless books written on this subject from nearly every perspective I can imagine. And so the question becomes, what can I contribute that hasn't already been said and said 1,000 times by people perhaps better writers than I? But when I look at, what has happened to me in Hollywood, these things have been experienced by a number of people, but they haven't necessarily been written about. They haven't been written about for kids in Moline and in, outer Fort Lauderdale and Sasquatch, Hoochie Watch to read. I'm sure that I would be banned from most local libraries. I know that, that in Florida, some of my books are not encouraged to be read in schools. They have been,
Right.
was written by at least one teacher saying, hey, take it as a compliment. I can't have your books in my classroom. Um,
But you never know when those words are going to hit somebody and who they're going to hit. It might be
yeah,
one person that reads it, but it's the right person. So
yeah,
you can never discount that. I mean, and it's got
yeah.
to be so different too. I mean, you and I are both of a certain age where we didn't have the TikToks and the social media where
Mm-hmm.
everyone's problems are laid out there bare, and you can kind of
Right.
talk about how do you think of that technology increase in the business since you've been doing this for such a long time now?
I think it's tremendous. I think it's wonderful because we don't write because, hopefully one is not writing because you want 10,000 or 20,000 or 100,000 copies of your book to sell. If so, God help you find a different career. You want to be able to reach people on a gut level, on an immediate level. And with social
Right.
media, we're 9 inches from your face. We're saying things that hopefully matter uh, to people. And we have access every single day. I get these, I guess it's okay to say this. I get notices on Facebook on my larger page saying, hey, engagement notices saying you have engaged more people. You've engaged 100,000 people in the last 30 days in
Right.
your posts and the reposting and so forth. Therefore, we're giving via our algorithm, we're going to give you yet more access to people, visibility
Exactly.
within the algorithm, and that's fantastic. It used to be if I posted about something, I wasn't posting that much, I'd get a couple of hundred views. Now I'm getting 10,000 views, and
Right.
it's glorious. Not because look at me, but because most of the things I'm saying are of some significance to me, and they are connecting. My messaging is connecting, and I'm beginning to see. I've got a little over 200 grand followers on Twitter. They're beginning to reconnect more, and I won't get 2 retweets. I'll get 22 or 52, 102. And that makes a difference. Same thing. I was never on TikTok, and I'm old. You said we're of a certain age. I'll tell you what that age is. OLD. That's for me.
Right.
But I'm doing the TikTok thing, with the same handle I use everywhere. Ben Patrick 90069. Shameless self-plug. But to get the word out there, and I do post some. I mean, look, I'm old, but some thirst trap pictures. But for the most part, it's true messaging, and hopefully, I will begin to get some of that TikTok algorithm shaking and jiving and shuffling, so that we will get to, because TikTok is the key to younger people. Instagram somewhat. Facebook is for the oldies now. And Twitter is for older people that are political minded and or like porn.
Exactly. Exactly, right? Well, I appreciate you coming on. I'm sorry we had to do a short interview. We both had a little time, but I just had to have you back on because you were such an important voice on my first show. You brought the gravitas that I was hoping for. You've lived a life, my friend, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I'm loving your success again. And give everyone your social media one more time, and I'll put a little Chiron up there as well.
It's Ben Patrick 90069 on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok.
Amazing. And I will be in Palm Springs either August or November. I think
Will you
August
look
or
me up,
October.
please?
So we will have a coffee.
Okay.
Leslie Jordan is getting a star at the end of October, right before Pride. Yeah. So maybe we'll meet up for that. I have some friends that are doing part of that want me to be involved. So I will see you for that. But I appreciate you taking the time to stop by, my friend.
Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to be left of center.
Thank you, sir. Have a great afternoon. Stay on the line for me. Guys, that was my very first guest, Ben Patrick Johnson. Please follow him on social media. He's got a couple of radio shows now that you can't miss, and we'll have him back within maybe 8 years. If not, we'll forget by the time we have a couple more rounds of 8 years. We'll forget who each other is, but that's okay. Guys, you're listening to the Left of Str8 Show right here on the Left of Str8 Radio Network. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye. All right, guys, we are back. That was Ben Patrick Johnson. Please follow him on social media. Look for him DJing and more very soon. I promise not to wait so long to have him back. We both had a little time crunch last week and he recorded this, so we'll go into it more in depth with Ben very soon. But I just appreciate it. Give me at least a few minutes to kind of catch up with what he's doing now. So glad to see he's been on the road to recovery the last 3 or 4 years, and it's amazing to have him back on the show. So thanks, Ben. I appreciate it a lot. I also wanted to talk about something we're doing with this 9 years, going on our 9th year after our 8-year anniversary. We are launching a Patreon page today that I hope you'll check out. Hopefully it'll show some support for the show through our Left of Str8 Radio Network. If you're not familiar with Patreon, Patreon lets you support creators of content. They can do art, crafts, videos, podcasts, comic books, whatever they have to be creating, and it helps the creator defray some of the costs of bringing their art to you. So I would be more than humble and appreciative if you can maybe spare a little money each month to support your show for Left of Str8 Radio. It would really help me out a bit. It would go towards deferring costs for things like hosting, for both the equipment that I use online for recording this visually and for putting it out there and editing, and for all of the web hosting and everything like that. It could really help me out a lot. The way it works is you pledge an amount each month and you get a small little perk back for supporting the show. I've created 3 tiers of support for now. You all know that I'm a huge coffee addict and post about it in my socials all the time, my love of coffee. And of course, I usually have it on during interviews because I need my go-go juice. But what I'm asking for our first tier to help support me is to pledge for just what a cup of coffee would cost you for a month. For a $3 donation each month, in exchange, you'll get a permanent thank you on the Left of Str8 Show website, and I'll send out a personally signed postcard of thanks. So if you can spare $3 a month, that would be amazing. If we get enough of you to do that, it will help pay for a lot of these costs, and I would appreciate it. So just a cup of one coffee a month, not one of those fancy Starbucks coffee or anything. I'm a Dunkin' Donuts guy. So $3 will cover a cup of coffee, and I'd be very appreciative. There's also a second tier if you have a little more money available, and you can set that aside for what I call coffee and a bagel. That would be $8 a month. And besides the thank you and postcard you get from the first tier, you also get a first look and listen to episodes before it's available for anyone else to hear them, and they'll be commercial free. I'll also send you out an I Support LGBTQ Radio sticker. And as we start up the Left of Str8 store here in the next month or so, you get 10% off any merchandise in the coming store. We have fun things like tote bags and aprons for all our foodies and some book discounts and things like that. So for the $8 coffee and a bagel tier, you get all that. And for those of you that have even a little more discernible money each month, I put a third tier out for you to set aside. And this is, I'm calling it Coffee and Lunch Together. For $13 a month, besides everything you get in the first two tiers, you'll also have the opportunity to listen live in live recordings of interviews that I do with my special guests. You can send in questions, and if I ask them on air, you'll get an on-air shout out. You'll get a special Left of Str8 Radio tote bag, and you'll get 20% off merchandise in the upcoming store. So what it is I usually do these recordings earlier so you can kind of come in and listen to the recordings as I'm doing them. If you have any questions for the guests, we can ask them on air or off air, and it's kind of a fun little perk that way. So 3 perks available, 3 tiers available, $3 a month, $8 a month, or $13 a month. There's also an option you can give more if you have a little bit more. I would appreciate it greatly. And all you have to do is go on over to the Patreon website. That's www.patreon.com/Left of Str8. And Left of Str8 is always spelled LEFTOFSTR and the number 8. And by becoming a Patreon subscriber, you definitely help defray costs immediately. Plus, if we have any money left over, if we get enough Patreon subscribers, it'll go towards more giveaways and more road trips and things like that. So I hope you'll support the Patreon page. There'll be a link here right above you can see, and just check it out and read the perks and let me know what you think. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into my next interview on this special anniversary show for our 8-year anniversary. And I'm going to bring up my interview I did just the other day with the beautiful and talented Kelly McCracken. She is now down in Cincinnati area of Ohio, was living up here by me is how I got to know her, but also one of the plaintiffs in the landmark case that brought marriage equality across the country here. So let's go ahead and take it away with Kelly, and I'll be back on the other side to wrap things up. You're listening to the Left of Str8 Show right here in the Left of Str8 Radio Network. Thanks for listening. All righty, guys. Welcome back to the Left of Str8 Show, everyone. I am absolutely thrilled today as we continue to celebrate this very special episode. It's our 8-year anniversary, of course, and I'm your host, as always, Scott Fullerton. I can't think of a better way to celebrate than to have 2 of my original guests from the very first episode back on the show today. We're going to visit and catch up. She's not only an incredibly talented musician, she's a wonderful mother, just happens to be a pioneering figure in the fight for marriage equality, hailing from my neck of the woods here in Northeast Ohio. So I'm excited about that. Kelly McCracken and her wife at the time, Kelly No, was one of the plaintiffs in the landmark U.S. Supreme Court case that ultimately led to the legalization of same-sex marriage right here in the United States. She's also the lead singer of the much-loved band The Kellys from our area that was hugely popular here in Northeast Ohio and went on to be in the band Flying Underground, what we're going to talk about later. She's now living in Southern California or Southern Ohio, co-parenting with her lovely daughter Ruby with her ex, and mom and daughter recently celebrated birthdays last month. Can't wait to catch up with her, share her story with you again. So please give a warm welcome back to the show, the one and only Miss Kelly McCracken. Kelly, how you doing? Thanks for coming back on the show.
I'm doing well, Scott. It's really great to see you. And in a way it feels like no time passed, but in a way it feels like a whole lifetime, because 8 years.
Exactly. I mean, with social media, we kind of keep little tiptoes on each
Right.
other from time to time, but we don't really, everyone's living their life. And
Yeah.
you're on the opposite side of the state, and it feels like 100 miles away sometimes.
Tell me
You
about
were
it.
here playing just about everywhere in Northeast Ohio with the Kellys, and now you're playing all the time down south. So it's I feel like I know you, but I miss you.
Right. Same.
Well, let's give everyone a quick catch up and remind each other, talk about growing up here in Northeast Ohio. What was that like, and what first drew you to music in the first place?
Let's see. We all know it's that small town up there. So I was very close with family. Every holiday, family get togethers. I remember being a child, and there was always someone that would say, "Oh, Kelly, sing Wind Beneath My Wings," or sing I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston, or some Taylor Dane, or, I mean, it started in preschool with I'm a Little Teapot. But then, holidays was just always something. And I just was able to eventually realize that, yeah, this is what I want to do as my thing. And yeah, then just I would record on a little tape player with my mom. My dad was singing in bands. So, I mean, I have his old record player and stereo. Just music kind of was always around me in one way or another, vocals especially. And yeah, I just went on to sing in school, show choir. And then right out of school, I dabbled with musical theater at Youngstown State. And then I came down just east of where I'm at now to Chillicothe in the recording workshop, and which was more studio music recording. And I was able to then my eyes were really open to, all right, this is what I really want to do. Make music, record it, perform it. And yeah, then the Kellys formed, and we wrote a ton of songs together and recorded quite a few, 4 different albums. Some were like EPs, a little shorter, but that music's all still circulating. And I get people that will send me a picture of the screen in their car, the Kellys Wake Up, like that old song is playing, and just, heard this and thinking back to the old days, so those songs are still being listened to. And now on to Flying Underground down here in Cincinnati, and we're doing the same thing. Just we're trying to write and play as much as possible, and just like keep that passion alive in me. I mean, even if it's just grabbing a guitar, or Ruby is taking piano lessons. So I mean, just her banging on the piano, she's figuring things out by ear. It's just amazing to watch. And then we'll sing together. And I taught her heart and soul. So I play the low part, she plays the high part, and it's one of those things. So, and I remember doing that with my dad on the piano, and it was just, all these full circle moments I'm coming into with my child and music now that I experienced growing up. That's kind of shaped me. So, yeah.
That is so exciting. Well, you are so beloved here. I mean, you guys were sold out no matter how big or small the venue here in Northeast Ohio for sure, and went on to so many other places. Let's also talk about, you've always been very out and proud for as long as I've known you. We just celebrated Pride Month last month. Where did you kind of first find your LGBTQ tribe here in Northeast Ohio? And what does Pride mean to you now as we're a little older and wiser?
Yeah. So my sophomore, junior year of high school, I pretty much knew then that was my identity. I felt it. I was always tomboyish. I was always looking at girls from being a young kid. I just, I always felt like something's drawing me to these women. I'm not looking at boys at all. And then as I grew, it was kind of that, I was just very open to everyone. But yeah, and one thing I remember about high school is that even the people that knew, or especially the people that knew, like I always had support, which I am so grateful for every day, because I mean, God, we've heard and seen the horror stories. There's so much we're going backwards these days now. And it's just, to have that support was like, I can't, I mean, there were the few family members here and there that, we had to kind of navigate around and tiptoe a little bit at times and just kind of get them to understand. But yeah, I always, from a young age, kind of knew. I remember my mom asked me if I was gay, and I was like, no, yeah, yes. And then, I mean, from that point on, she was always been fully supportive, both of my parents. I mean, I can't, it's hard. It's harder to come by than, I have it, and I'm really grateful for it.
Right.
But yeah, then out of high school, I really became out and proud. Once I was out of high school and I discovered this whole world in front of me, then yeah, it went on from there.
Well, it's always a journey. In Northeast Ohio, people think of it as very conservative, and it is to some point. But when you have that support early on, it makes it easier, right? So, and you're very close with your mom. You always have been.
Yeah.
So it makes it so much easier, even if your group of friends might be smaller to deal with it. Just to have that support makes all the difference, right?
Your original question did slip my mind. Yes. So then out of high school, I did discover the Funky Skunk and the Queen of Hearts and the Horseshoe. I know is kind of just an everybody's bar, but those places are where I first discovered the gay world that is, and that was it. That was, for me, that was that opened the door to really truly being me.
Right.
And yeah, I just took that and ran with it. And now I think a couple of the bars in Warren are like reopening and still thriving, because there's still a lot of gay people that need a lot of support. And I remember that being a huge support for me. The Alley as well. Yeah,
Right.
There were a lot of little places right in there with such great company, and some of the people I still touch base with today that they really helped me through a lot.
Right. And now we have the Full Spectrum Community Center here. I'm not sure how familiar you are with them, but they've organized a Pride Festival for the last 3 years in downtown Warren, right on the square. So we're having a Pride Festival right in downtown Warren, closing off the entire square right in front of the courthouse there. So it's great to see that visibility these days. So that's kind of cool.
What is the date of that?
They just had it. It's usually mid-June. So they just had it like 2 weeks ago. But I'm good friends with the organizer, so I'm going to have to send him over your information, have you guys perform, because they have a great stage right there.
I'd love to be there.
So yeah, it's pretty amazing what they've done there in a short time. So that's always cool. Well, let's kind of keep in the vein, and let's end up talking about this historic court case that you were part of kind of by accident. I mean, a lot of people may not know that the actual marriage equality case, the Obgerfeld versus Hodges, was really a culmination of like 6 lawsuits put together. And you were one part of that, Henry versus Winslow. And yours was actually a little bit more about adoption than it was even marriage equality, right? It kind of got pulled into this altogether. But talk about that court case, or what I don't know about it.
Yeah. Well, not less about adoption and more about just getting my name on, or the non-birth parent on the birth certificate. It was basically about certificates, because Jim Obergefell wanted his name on his husband's death certificate. He had passed of ALS, and it was heartbreaking for him to not have they got married right before he passed. And it was just so heartbreaking that he wanted that, and he was fighting for that. And then us and a handful of other couples all wanted that for our children as well, because we were married in Provincetown, Massachusetts, fully legal, crossed back over into Ohio. Marriage is not legal. And because I am another female, they won't put my name on the birth certificate, or wouldn't until now. But when we went in and, pled our case, Judge Black in Cincinnati said, not only should you all have your names on your children's birth certificate and Jim should have his name on his husband's, but your marriages should be recognized in Ohio. And we were, I mean, that sends chills down my body right now, because that was his decision. And of course, Cincinnati appealed it. And that's when it went on to the Supreme Court. They said, let the Supreme Court decide then. And then months later, we made our trip to, it was Ruby's first time on an airplane, to DC. And yeah, heard the oral arguments, and then had to wait another, month before the decision. And yeah, decision day just passed, and here we are.
It was a wild ride for sure. It's like, and I was so happy to see Ohio part of it, with both Jim and you guys as part of this case.
Yeah.
And this show started exactly 1 week after the decision came down. So I was so honored to have you even come on and talk about it at the time, because it's all still new and raw. And I was so happy that Ruby got to have both her moms on there, and we have equality all the way around. I mean, we talked about it in the introduction. You and Kelly Noah aren't together anymore. That's part of the rights of marriage, right? Being together and being separated, and you still co-parent Ruby, and that's it's still groundbreaking. And thank you guys so much for your effort in that. Can you believe that we're starting to go backwards again, though? How crazy is that?
Yeah, I can't even. It chokes me up to even think about it. We already had to watch Roe go backwards, and just one thing after another. The trans community, it's just, I want to move forward, and it's tough to keep going. Some
Yeah, I would
days.
think it would be doubly hard to be part of it in the beginning, and be part of that landmark case, and see it's like, well, what, we fought pretty hard for this, and now there's other people that think that it's all for naught. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I always hear from or reach out to Jim Obergefell around the end of June and all of Pride Month. We talk at least once during Pride Month, and he texted me on Decision Day and said, happy anniversary, even though things aren't so happy all the time right now for us. So yeah, he's feeling it too. And I mean, he was the lead plaintiff and the one who was headstrong the whole time. And just, yeah, it's bittersweet.
I bet. Well, again, thank you for being part of it. Thank you and your wife and little Ruby for being a part of it. And I'm just so honored to have you on that first show, because it was still, like I said, so raw for all of us.
Yeah.
And you talked about that journey so eloquently back then. I'll have to put that back up, because I still have the recording of that, and we'll have to put that back up so they hear. Because it was just so moving to hear about your guys' fight to get that to happen, and it was just so important for it to happen. So Thanks again on that. I appreciate it. Now, I mean, Ruby is now, like I said, you guys both had a birthday. She's now 8 years older. Can you believe it? Does she have any idea of what that was all about? Have you guys shared any of that part with her when it comes around, or how much is she aware of?
She's pretty aware. A lot of the pictures she saw from those times, a couple of the interviews she did watch, and she gets a kick out of seeing herself and seeing us talk. But yeah, she's getting older, and she has of course a handful of friends that have two moms, mom and a dad. She understands the wide array of how families can be formed, and but yeah, as far as the history, yeah, she's getting it. She's learning more every day.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, let's go ahead and get back into the music, because I want to talk about that. That is such a big part of your life. I mean, the Kellys just got recognized. You're going to be in this gallery picture thing. Talk about that. That's got to be kind of exciting.
Yes. Oh gosh, Downbeat. Downbeat Productions. Mariano Longo is a great friend of mine from the Warren area. Went to school with my dad. He's now living in Vegas, and he's putting together, it's right on East Market Street across from Trumbull Hospital. And it's just going to be this space where bands can go, musicians can go to write, record, lounge, learn, just be, and kind of form themselves and just be in a place, a comfortable place to be able to write and be a musician. Not necessarily even for recording time, but just to feel that energy. And so he's gathering all the prominent musicians that he's known from the region. And yeah, he's just inducting me into this Hall of Fame, if you will, of Warren and surrounding area musicians. And it's a big honor because it seems like a big deal. I can't wait.
It is, and it's well deserved, Kelly. Like I said, you were groundbreaker. I mean, we had garage bands, I guess you would call them, quote unquote, garage bands. But to record, like you said, there wasn't a space. You could go to Newton Falls. I think there was that one company that did some recording.
Which we recorded our first album in Newton Falls at Toontown, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Mike Talanka was his name. And then we went on to record everything else at Mind Rocket with Josh Roman, and he became one of our greatest friends. And he really helped me through a lot of, writer's block moments or creative forks in the road. He really had a lot of knowledge and creative hand in the music as well, which I really love looking back on and listening to.
Which is it harder? Is it harder for the musician or for the fans when you leave one group and go into another? I mean, the Kellys were so beloved. Do you think you miss it more, or do the fans miss it more?
I don't know. I miss it quite a bit. I know that we had such a time together. And then, when we just started to get to a point where it just seemed like we might have needed something else. Mo moved to Florida. We went through a couple bass players after that. And we're still writing, still performing, still had that Kelly sound. But it was like we were, trying to hold on to it. And then I had the opportunity. I always kind of felt like I needed to stretch my arms a little bit further. Met Kelly had the opportunity to move down here and start something new, but it was not easy. And I can imagine, I guess the fans still have, the recorded stuff to listen to, but I don't know. I did actually just talk to Mo a couple weeks ago, and there is talk of a Kelly's reunion.
Oh my goodness.
But we're going to talk to Mariano about maybe when, Downbeat opens, Flying Underground comes up, little Kelly's reunion show, Downbeat's open. I don't know. There's talk of it, but I like the idea, and I would be willing to see what that can unfold.
That would be amazing. I think the fans will go crazy. But let's talk about Flying Underground. I want to start by playing one of your music videos, Rocket Ship, so popular, such a great song. We're going to play that, and then we're going to talk about Flying Underground on the other side. Guys, we're listening to one of my very first guests. This is Miss Kelly McCracken. I'm so excited to have her back here on our 8-year anniversary show. You're listening to Left of Str8 Show right here on the Left of Str8 Radio Network. We'll be back on the other side.
Fall quivers and dissolves, got a rocket ship. Hey! Sprawled, lying on the ground, let's go walk around, got a rocket ship. Come be next to me in a reverie now.
Alrighty, guys, we are back. That was Rocket Ship by my guest today, Kelly McCracken, and her group Flying Underground. Kelly was one of my original guests 8 years ago, right here at our very first episode of Left of Str8 Show. Such an honor to have you back. We talked about it before the break, and your time with the Kellys and how you were just so beloved here in Northeast Ohio. But now Flying Underground is doing some great music, very well known as well. Talk about transitioning to that group. How did you guys find each other?
I moved down here in the hopes of like kind of just leaving it up to the universe. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I put my music and my photos on a couple band websites, basically like Craigslist for musicians or match.com for musicians. Band Mix was one. And Brian Lovely, my guitarist for Flying Underground right now, and come to be one of my closest friends. He called me. I remember where I was standing. It was right before Ruby was born. So I know that it was just now 10 years ago. Because we just had our 10-year. Ruby just turned 9. Brian and I met right before it. But yeah, he called me up and he said, I listened to some of your music. I have some songs. He introduced himself, and I looked him up, and he had been a freelance musician and in numerous bands in Cincinnati that were reputable. So seemed legit. He had some music that he had previously recorded that he wanted to kind of revamp and then see where it went, and then potentially form a band. And so we got into recording, and we really seemed to get along great. The vibe was awesome. He's a incredible musician, and just an incredible person. We have some of the greatest conversations. But so Flying Underground formed. He knew the bass player and drummer at the time. They had played together, and all three of them at the time were playing for, if you probably remember, Blessed Union of Souls.
Oh yeah.
So and they're currently the Blessed Union band right now. So they play about it once every month or once or twice, or I'm not even sure what they're doing right now, but it's pretty often. So yeah, then it started snowballing from there. We were just picking up more shows, doing more recording. Brian and I were getting together, and songs were emerging. And then COVID hit, which wasn't great for, performance. We had to cancel some shows. I was questioning my entire livelihood, because I'm also in the service industry. So restaurants are shut down. Bands aren't playing anywhere. I was like, what am I going to do? I think everybody had at least that moment. I can't just work from home when I do performance and service. So, but Brian and I, it gave us time to write. And also every Wednesday we would, for the first couple weeks of it, we were like facing separate ways. I think we even did a couple videos with masks actually on. I just kind of took it off to sing, just when everybody was still wary of COVID and not really sure what was happening outside. We did these acoustic videos, and it was just him and I, one song at a time. We'd put some sort of filter on, edit it down, just make it interesting and cool. And we were releasing one of those a month or one of those a week for a couple months of COVID. And that gave us a chance to get closer. And we actually, I think, benefited from that. And now we're working on, and it's actually almost finished, our second full-length album, which I'm very excited for. And then there'll probably be some video after that. But yeah, it's a lot of productive things we're doing to kind of just keep it going in between the shows. And we have a full late summer, fall schedule. So yeah, we're playing right on Fountain Square on mid-July. So we're getting ready for that and just doing whatever we can, even if it's just getting together and singing a few songs on the side of the busy Main Street or Monmouth Street here in Newport. Just something to do.
That's amazing. Talk about me. I mean, you've been in the business now quite a while. Talk about how much music has changed. We're finally going back to full albums. For a while, it got to everyone would just release a single every once in a while, and Spotify would give you 1/3 of a penny for every 1,000 listens or something.
Right.
But talk about the changing. I mean, you've always been a performer as a musician. What has changed, and what's kind of stayed the same for you?
What stayed the same is that I still have to have a job because this is not I can't do this full time because I have a job. I mean, any musician will tell you that, yeah, the money is what, hasn't changed for me. It's not about how much money we're going to make. It's about if we're going to make, just enough to play the show and if there's going to be people there to listen. That's my goal each show, is getting as many people as I can to just listen. Simple. Listen, maybe buy a t-shirt, maybe come back next time. Just enjoy this positive environment that we're trying to provide, because
Right.
there's just so much to be down about, and there's just so much to wallow in that when the sun shines for like 5 minutes, I go right out and stand in it, that sort of thing. So when I get that moment to be on stage, sing to people, watch them sing back if they know the lyrics. That was one thing with the Kellys, is like, especially the last couple of years of it, people were really into it, and just seeing someone sing lyrics that you have written or that you're singing, that your band is playing, that's a experience for me that I really love to. It's not about the money for me. It's that,
I was in the audience for quite a few of those. I remember them well, and the whole audience would be singing along.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. I loved all that. Well, brag about Ruby a little bit. You talked about she's actually taking piano lessons now. What traits are you seeing in her start to emerge at 9 years old? Do you think she's going to keep music, maybe follow mom, or just kind of learning the basics of it? What's really interesting her these days?
So she's had a few piano lessons and a couple ukulele lessons.
Nice.
And she's learning her notes, and she's seeing that, oh, this note on the ukulele is this note on the piano. And I'm hoping that she's learning it like I did, in that it's a language, and that you can play it on you can make up your own instrument if you want to. And I see her doing that, 2 sticks banging on things. And, she's silly as ever. And she did soccer for a little bit, and then, didn't want to. So we skipped, and then soccer's coming around again in the fall. I'm not sure if she's going to do it again, but yeah, just kind of let her lead until she finds something that's really taken off. She's really, really been into gymnastics. She does about 300 cartwheels a day, and they're perfect. She's perfected them. I've watched her, try and get her feet right at the end and really be critical of herself. And she's got it, and she gets so excited every time she lands a perfect cartwheel, and she knows that she did that. I see a lot of determination in her, a lot of empathy. She really feels other people's feelings and considers other people more than I've not known a lot of 9-year-olds, but more than what I've always known a 9-year-old to feel. She's a special soul, for sure.
Well, it's what you teach at home. And I think despite you and Kelly not being together, I think you were both wonderful people. And so that kind of trickles down together. So
Thank you, Scott.
Congratulations. That is awesome. I love that. What are your goals now for the future? Where do you see things happening for yourself? Are you back in the dating life? You in the raising the kid life? What's kind of in your future for yourself? What are your goals for yourself right now?
So I just, at the beginning of June, turned 41, So right now we won't say crisis, but I'm having this midlife recognition, just kind of looking back on my 40 years, my time as a child, my just so much to look back on that I feel like went by in the blink of an eye. So now I'm looking forward, but not too forward, because I see that time has passed so quickly. So honestly, I'm not looking too much ahead right now. I do have a lovely girlfriend of about 3 years. She's wonderful.
Yes.
And I just enjoying every moment with Ruby, just learning how to slow down, because the older that you get, the faster time goes by. Like Ruby says, but the days are so long. And I say, but the years are short. I'm telling you. I said, you won't know it. It doesn't feel that way now. I remember being 9 and like, God, I just want to get to, the next fun thing. It's taking forever to get there. But now it's like, just slowing down. She helps me to slow down. We'll go for a walk and stop and smell every flower and just taking those moments to really slow down. But yeah, ultimately just, doing the thing, working, taking care of my life things. And then, but with music, just continuing to write, playing the shows, preparing for the shows we have scheduled, keeping my voice strong, keeping my mind clear, and just, taking it one day at a time, really, one moment at a time, if I can. Yeah.
I love it. Well, it's been such an honor again to have you back on here. Thank you for yours and Kelly's trailblazing work, even though you didn't know it at the time. That's not what you did it for. You did it just to be a mom, which is awesome. Thanks for coming on the very first show. I can't believe that like I said, we've kept in touch through social media, but we haven't really been kept in touch after. We're going to have to see each other in person sometime soon when you're up to Northeast again, and when I travel down to Southern Ohio. Thanks for being on the show, Kelly.
I love that. Thank you so much, Scott. Really. I really
Let everyone know where they can find your music, and if they want to follow you on social media, where they can find you on social media.
Flying Underground on Instagram, or Kelly McCracken is me. Either one, they're linked together. We're on Spotify. I know. CD Baby, iTunes. You can find some of the Flying Underground stuff there. The Kelly stuff is definitely on Spotify still. Or I have some hard copy albums still left over in my closet if anybody needs one. But yes, and look for new Flying Underground music by the end of the year. We're hoping for fall.
I love it. Fantastic. Well, Kelly, stay on the line for me. We're going to have a special 5 questions with Kelly. Be sure to look for that on our next Tuesday here. I guess it'll be tomorrow. But Kelly McCracken, just fantastic to have you on the show. Stay on the line here for me, guys. We'll be back. The 8-year anniversary is not over yet. We have more to talk about. Listen to Left of Str8 Show right here on the Left of Str8 Radio Network. Bye-bye. All righty, everyone. We are back. That was Kelly McCracken, and I can't wait to hear her perform again. We'll be hanging out for a little coffee and catch up in August when she comes back up here to Northeast Ohio. Guys, that's it for my interviews on this 8th year anniversary issue for the Left of Str8 Show. I did want to let you know before you go away, we're doing a special giveaway for you listeners of the show. It's helping me celebrate our 8-year anniversary by giving away 8 lucky listeners a chance to win one of our special anniversary gift bag giveaways. It starts today, July 3rd, and goes through Sunday, July 16th. You can enter to win a bunch of cool things, starting with our rainbow Left of Str8 tote bag, which you can see right here, has the Left of Str8 logo on it in a bunch of really cool colors. So you can get a Left of Str8 radio tote bag. We also have, celebrating since we started the show during Marriage Equality Month, I have this really cool rainbow gummy or jelly bracelet that comes in a very cool box that commemorates the 8-year anniversary for marriage equality being signed. Our good friends over at CBT Candle, Scott Travis, has donated a couple little candle and scent gifts that you'll be getting in the gift bag. We have these really cool little cork lights that go into bottles for decorations that were donated, that everyone gets one of those. Our good friends over at Deco, the gay streaming network, kindly donated a Marriage of Convenience CD. Of course, this was by our good friend Jason Gaffney and David Singletary, who was on the show earlier this season. This is a hilarious web series they put together. We have fingers crossed for episode 2. We also have our good friend Del Shores over at Sordid Lives, of course, fame, has donated a bunch of fun little Sordid Lives things like candles and DVDs. You'll get a little different something from Del Shores and Sordid Lives in your bag. Also, our good friend, husbands and authors, Byron Lane and Stephen Rowley have each given us 4 copies of their book. So you'll get one of each of these copies, either Big Gay Wedding by Byron or The Celebrants by Steve Raleigh will be in your gift bag. Plus, we're going to give away a t-shirt. I got these great I Survived the Big Gay Road Trip t-shirts left over from one of our road trips. Got 1 or 2 other t-shirts. You'll get one of those t-shirts with you. So just a bunch of fun little things we're going to put in a gift bag to give away to 8 lucky listeners. And you have one of 2 ways that you can win these. You can either go to the website, www.leftofstraightradio.com, and enter on the contest page. Or if you like, comment, or share one of the social media posts from any of the straight accounts, either the main ones or the new interns, we will mark that and we will put your whatever your handle is as an entry for the gift bag as well. So 2 ways to win. You can go to the website and enter, or you can like, share, or comment on one of the Left of Str8 Show posts. Speaking of my interns, guys, I'm going to have a post on it soon. It's going to be in the newsletter that's going out. They have been a great help over the past couple of weeks. I just started this group of 6 interns 3 weeks ago. They've been doing some amazing work to help me get ready for the anniversary. Look for their upcoming projects and time on the air with me as they learn the craft of podcasting. They're each going to create a podcast episode of their own. You can also follow them on their Left of Str8 Radio social media. On Instagram, it's at Left of Str8 Radio Interns. On Twitter and TikTok, it's at Left of Str8 Radio. And on Facebook, the Left of Str8 Show page. So a real big shout out to my interns, Anna, Brooke, Connie, Deja, Leah, and Joe, who've been just a tremendous help. And by sharing one of their posts, you can be entered for the gift bag giveaway as well. So that's it. Again, thanks for tuning in. Check out the Patreon page where if you can donate just a little bit each month, it would really help the Left of Str8 Show keep up and running and keep us on the air. I would appreciate it. Be sure to remember that the schedule right now for Left of Str8 Radio is every Monday we have our Rainbow Rundown, which is a news program of the top news stories of the week, in my opinion. We go over 6 to 8 little fun LGBTQ news stories of interest to our community. So that's every Monday. On Tuesdays, we do 5 questions with, which are 5 questions that are just fun, random, with our guests from the previous week. Coming soon on Wednesdays, I have a brand new podcast with my good buddy Johnny over from the Queer Centric. We're going to be doing a new podcast called Bears of a Certain Age on Wednesdays. So more information will be coming with that. It'll be available for both our channels. And then, of course, interviews are going to be every Thursday and Friday from here on out, starting in July. I have some amazing interviews already in the can coming up for July. I have our good friends Terry Ray from Palm Springs, Stan Zimmerman from LA. Tom Goss has brand new music out. He'll be on the show. Clayton James, who's on the fantastic show So Help Me Todd, which I'm a huge fan of and has done a lot of great Hallmark movies. Our friends from the podcast No New Friends will be on the show. Our friends from the Multi-Amory podcast is going to be on the show. Panos Soklas and Mark Schwab are going to be here to talk about their new movie they have coming out. Also, Mitch Hara and Jason Stewart, 2 of the funniest guys on the planet, will be here to talk about their 2nd season of the web series Smothered. And then I have from The Voice, EJ Michaels that has amazing new music out. We're going to talk to him all about his career and coming out. So many great interviews already done and ready to come out to you this month, and so many more lined up to do. So keep on listening to Left of Str8 Show. We're available on YouTube or at your favorite podcast distributor, including iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We have Amazon Music, Audible, all your favorite podcast stations. Check us out on the Left of Str8 Show website, www.leftofstraightradio.com. And I appreciate you as we go into our 9th year together. Thanks for listening and have a great rest of your afternoon. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks for listening to The Left of Str8 Show. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast distributor, and please give us a 5-star rating so more listeners can find us. You can follow us on social media, and be sure to check out our website, www.leftofstraightradio.com, for contests and other news and information. See you next week.